Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to VGVN3. We are done with Group A for the tournament so far, and Kalento and Fake have advanced with 2-1 records, and Fake barely narrowing out or edging out Firebat by having a better record and 3-0ing to advance. So well done to him, and he's the first open bracket qualifier player to go through to the next round. Meanwhile, Group B has a series of very well-talented players for different reasons. You have two of the ladder gods of Hyped and Neirea. You have Savitz, who's been a powerhouse from Hearthstone from the very beginning, and you have one of the most legendary card players of all time, Brian Kibler, and his teammate, PVDDR, who's been doing a great job commentating alongside me. This is a very exciting time because I want to see how all these players fare, but everybody's eyes has to be on Kibler to see how he's going to perform this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be a big proving ground for him. You know, his chance to play with the big leagues, so to speak. It should be interesting. And I also really want to see Hyped's Mage deck. So, hope we get to see that.
Oh, yes. All these players seem to have their own ideas of how to build decks. They're pretty independent spirited, and they're not just willing to take the best deck and be like, all right, well, I'll just play this. It looks good. They each have their own ideas and craft innovative ways to kind of play them. So our first series of Group B for the day will be Brian Kibler versus Naria. And now a lot of people know a little bit about Kibler, some of his thoughts on Hearthstone competitive scene, whether or not he likes formats like bans, etc. There's a lot of spotlight on him and his priest deck. But let's talk a little bit about Neirea. PV, do you know anything about this guy? And if so, tell me.
I know he's also from Ukraine, like Kalento. He is, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and I know his number 2 on ladder. Even though he doesn't play many tournaments, you know, he doesn't stream a lot and stuff like that. So he's not very famous, but people who know him think he's very good. And his results show it. I mean, you know, being second in EU on ladder, it's pretty impressive. But that's
absolutely
as much as I know about him.
Well, I mean, he's ranked second, but he's achieved first on the first season in April, back earlier this season or this year when seasons were first starting to come out for Legend and having the final rankings for the seeding points. Also, Monk got the opportunity to catch up with him, and apparently Neirea doesn't stream or do anything publicity-wise because his computer was around 7 years old. That's right. It was made back in 2006 and 2007 when I don't even know what was going on. Like Windows Vista was popular around there. Oh my God. That is dark times. And yet Neirea was the guy. He's the best player that you've probably never heard of. Now, let's go into the ban screens and see what these guys have chosen for what today's matches will be. Best of 5, 1 ban format. You get to deny opponents a deck. And it seems like Hunter has been banned for Brian, and Neirea will have his Miracle Rogue ban, and for good measure. Brian Kibler seems to place a lot of stock in his priest deck and making it work, and a Miracle Rogue definitely gives that deck one of his harder times.
Yeah, well, this is actually the first time I've seen Neirea's picture. I had no idea how he looked like.
All right, well, he looks kind of like a baller, honestly.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Kibler is not a surprise here. I think he's playing his priest deck, which he played, you know, to great success before, and it's really the kind of deck he likes to play, both in Magic and in Hearthstone. Just clog the board with creatures and just do some attacks and some combat math. And Naria is playing a deck which I think is has a good matchup against priest, which is Handlock, which is definitely one of the stronger decks we've seen this tournament. You know, just if you can avoid Hunter, it has a lot of very good matchups, priest being one of them.
Certainly. The fact is that this deck cuts a lot of spells. Sorry, I'm talking about the priest. The deck cuts a lot of spells in favor of a minion-centric approach. In fact, Kibler is not running any Shadow Word Deaths. He's cut them completely and has opted to go for just more minions, and the spell that could be his way to win late game scenarios might be Mind Control. So it's an interesting take. Let's see if it pays off to him. No thought seals, by the way. And that's another card that I know you've discussed a few times publicly on record, saying that maybe you're not sure it's the best card or people rate it correctly, maybe slightly overrated. Who knows? Maybe it'll be useful, maybe it won't be for future people. But here, Kibler's chosen to run without it. Game 1's about to begin, so let's see what these two players have in store for Group B.
Yeah, and you see Neirea running Alexstrasza, not running larger axes. So, some difference in opinions here.
Yeah, I think again it's based on how you think both can perform in the metagame and even your own preference, honestly.
Yeah, so a pretty standard hand for both players, I would say. Nothing really standing out here.
Yeah.
Gonna coin the most, the minion with the biggest power in play to try and apply some damage before Naria can take control of the game.
Yep.
Naria is just gonna hero power.
Loot Hoarder disrupts the mana curve if your opponent has Mortal Coil. Most likely you can sneak in a little bit of damage. And this matchup does get tough if you kind of put your opponent into Molten Giant range, they taunt him up, and you just have nothing to do. Because you just don't have any way to push through those 9 health creatures. But there are ways around it. You have the Alkanized Soul Priest combos with Circle of Healing. You have the ability to kind of have a bunch of minions on board, and if they don't clear it with Hellfire or Shadow Flame, you might be able to pick up a good trade. But it's still going to be a little bit tough for Kibler here.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that he doesn't have Shadow or Death, and he also doesn't have Black Knight. So he actually has, outside of this Mind Control and Alkanite combo, 0 ways to deal with a big taunt guy. But what can he do? He can't just not attack. He has to attack. Try to win the game before his opponent draws the Molten Giants.
Ooh. Oh no. Yeah, he went for the double Northshire Cleric, and now he's going to lose him to AoE. And to the Hellfire goes for a nice 4-for-1, but I guess the Loot Hoarder at least draws 1.
Yeah, and you get 2 Spiderlings, so it's not that bad. And maybe, he was balking on the fact that his opponent would be running the 2 Shadow Flame, 1 Hellfire version, which I've seen a lot of. I don't actually know how many he runs. Let me check. But yeah, some decks only have access to 1 Hellfire, then you can just hope they don't have it.
Oh, Neirea, by the way, bought a new computer finally, so thankfully we can see him in the webcam, but he is focused.
Yeah, looks like a picture.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he only has 1 Hellfire.
Oh, this is another way for him to burst, too. Alkanized Soul Priest and Zombie Chow.
Oh, yeah, to get past big taunts, it definitely is. He's not a very high life totem now. He could take 7 damage this turn, dropping down to 7. And he doesn't have a way to give his guys taunt. He has this ledge voucher, but he can't taunt up the giant yet. He probably has to Shadow Flame here. Oh, now he can taunt 2 giants. Yeah. Now his options are, just Shadow Flaming away the board and playing a giant, or just playing a giant and taunting his other giant and probably silencing this ledge voucher. Both of which seem very reasonable. Also, Siphon Sow is an option, attack Siphon Sow. There are no wrong answers here.
Yeah. Either way, you're looking to clear the board. You're looking to play this Molten Giant. Naria is just trying to making sure that if there's any way to get an optimal set of minions, so that way he doesn't overuse his resources inefficiently. But I think this one makes the most sense.
Yeah, it's definitely fine. His hand's pretty stacked either way.
Alright, Holy Nova.
Well, if you were Kibler, do you just Holy Nova here and hope that next turn you draw Circle of Healing to kill them with Zombie Chow? This is ambitious.
Very optimistic. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I guess you just have to play Karen instead. It's still like if you play low tap, it's just going to get attacked and you accomplish absolutely nothing. So at least Karen, if it doesn't have a silence, which he does, but if he doesn't have it, you can deal more damage.
Let me ask you, if he did have Circle of Healing, say this like Lothab was Circle, then does that become a valid play?
I think so. I think that's probably his best chance to win the game. Considering his opponent has 10 cards in hand, it would still not be good here because he can heal 3 points of life with the Farseer. But I think it's his best chance to win the game, as small as it is. It wouldn't even be that small. All it would take would be his opponent not having Farseer, or having to Siphon Soul his own guy. Stay alive.
Oh man, things are getting a little dicey for Brian. Oh my
Ooh.
god, second zombie chow. This is starting to become like a weird scenario where, gosh, can you even use Holy Nova to damage your own zombie chow? And then I don't know. You can't fit it all mana wise with the Alkanite Soul Priest. You have to rely on
Yeah.
Circle of Healing.
Now what happens? Because he might get low tap next turn, which would basically just kill him. I assume he's gonna play low tap now. That's what I would do probably.
I must consider.
The thing is, if you play Holy Nova, the following turn you can kill a giant with Alkanai if it gets like too crazy, and you're starting to take way too much damage. But I think Lotheb is more consistent with how you win.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna win the game. Like, look at your hand. It's 2 zombie chows. If you have to do that, then you won't be able to play the zombie chows later. So I think, yeah, I think he has to go for the kill here. And you have to look at your hand and think, how am I going to win the game? And it's such a key question to ask. And if you can't come up with an answer, then you have to make a different play. Like exposing your Arcanine would just lose you the game, I think.
Oh man.
Ooh,
All right,
Naria is not concerned about double zombie chow circle.
Well, he doesn't have enough mana to do it, that's for sure. And the second Holy Nova isn't really what Brian Kibler was hoping for.
Yeah,
and I don't see a way for him to get out of here.
Yeah, no, there's nothing. I mean, if he hadn't been low tap, he would still need to draw the circle. As it is, there's nothing for him to do.
I wonder.
Yeah, everything else just can't stop the stem of damage. There's 24 damage already, so you're DOB, and there's no way for Kibler to kind of stop anything anymore now that spells cost way too much, and he can't use his Circle of Healing combination. Ah, that's so frustrating as a Priest player, because you're so close to killing your Handlock, but Kibler's going to concede.
Yeah, it is frustrating. And interesting, low tap is a card that you don't always see in Miracle Rogue. Some players prefer not to play it. And it was good now. I mean, it wasn't needed, but it guaranteed the win.
All right, well, now he has to go to his Shaman or his Druid deck, and he's chosen the Shaman, which seems to be pretty favorable over what Shaman or what Handlock can do. You have the removals that line up very nicely, and it seems like Kibler has introduced a few other cards that's pretty nice in the arsenal. Sludge Belcher being one of them. Haunted Creeper has kind of been in and out of Shaman, but overall I think it's very flexible still with what it can do.
Yeah. It is. I think Haunted Creeper is not spectacular, but it's a role player. It does what you need to do better than any other card, so you run it, even though it's not spectacular.
It's a role player. All right. Well, I think that's a good description of this card. Sorry, Forsen totally ruined that for me. Let's go to game 2 and see if Neirea can keep up this streak, or will Kibler pick the deck that's able to unlock his key to evening up the series?
Yeah, I mean, it should be decent for him, because as you said, removal matches up real nicely. Earthshock is great against Twilight Drake, and Hex is great against big giants.
Greetings, friend.
So I would imagine he's the favorite.
All right, cool. Well, looks like Kibler is going to have kind of an okay-ish start, but not really the best one that he could afford. He's drawn 2 of his heaviest cards, but at least he has something to do early on the board. And he also does have Earthshock for the Twilight Drake, which is very nice. Now it comes down to a coin flip, and I love asking this question. As a Handlock player, what do you like playing? Do you like playing the Giant, or do you like playing the Drake first?
I think I like playing the Drake. It depends. If I need... if my opponent has a board, then I play the Giant, because I can't afford to get it Earthshocked. So, if I was just playing... Yeah, if my opponent had absolutely nothing, then you might play the Drake and try to bait a Hex on that. But you might get to a point where it's either too devastating to just get your Drake Earthshock, you just lose so much time, or you might have to react next turn, and then your Mountain Giant is going to cost more, because Drake is always going to cost 4, and it doesn't really matter if it's a 4/7 or a 4/9, But and Giant, imagine this turn it has to like Hellfire, Soulfire, or something. Then when is he going to cast that Giant?
Oh man, Neirea almost went for the autopilot onto the Twilight Drake, but a better alternative came to the hand. A little bit tricky for Kibler because he spent 2 cards and a half removing this.
And he doesn't have 2 Earthshocks, so the decision to play Mountain Giant really justified here. Yeah, he could Coin Loathab here, but that's not fantastic because he's just going to get attacked. I think it's the best you can do. At least you can finish it off with a Fire Elemental next turn.
I think this actually is his best course of action, so that way he's not going to get wiped by something like Hellfire, and a combination of anything else. Alright. Well, Naria's going to heal up and play a little bit more defensive. I like it. Taking a very systematic approach. Doesn't allow... It's like you said, you don't want to allow the Shaman to pick up really good value with things like Earthshock. Otherwise, this turn would have been pretty devastating.
This play is super interesting. Counting to 3/3. Because it protects his Giant from the Fire Elemental. That's a very, very good play. That I think, 98% of people would just not make. It's just so automatic to taunt your Giant. But here he actually doesn't want an attacking Giant. He wants the Giant to stay alive. And, he also protects against Black Knight. It was a very, very good play.
Yeah, good as a play, and I like the more you talked about it, the more I like it. Not to mention that it's also powerful against Flame Tongue Totem too, forced to trade into the Farseer before it goes into anything else. So it's just actually just good against almost everything, pretty much.
Yeah, it's only bad if the opponent, it's somehow going to kill you. Because chances are he wants to attack the Giant anyway, so why give him the opportunity to do it?
Alright, in the meantime, Brian Kibler's kind of running out of time. He needs to do something and take action. But Sludge Belcher is his best course pretty much at this stage. Just try to stall. And this might give an opportunity for Neirea to really take command of the board with being able to clear everything that Shaman has. But how does he go about it? Does he silence and Hellfire, go for the easy one? Does he weaken his Giant too much and play into Fire Elemental range? It's all about give or take here.
Yeah, a lot of different options. I like that he has 2 Owls in his Handlock deck too. Owl is such a versatile card, and in this matchup, I think, in this metagame, I think Owl is very, very good. Lots of, taunt buffs, lots of death rattles. But yeah, what does he do this turn?
I wonder.
Well, I mean, you always could just Siphon Soul, push through and attack. And just kind of accept the fact that you might be vulnerable to Flame Tongue Totem. Took me a while to summon that name. Either way, I feel like there's no way to cover your entire bases.
Yeah, if you attack a minion with the Giant, then you don't lose your Giant to your Flame Tongue don't. Oh no, you still do. Yeah.
It's not pretty, but I think you're just kind of playing around the fact that he won't have it.
Yeah, and you protect yourself against Fire Elemental. Now he has to use Fire Elemental and a Earthshock and send his 2... Oh no, yeah. And send 1 dude in.
Yep, this is not the value that you were looking for if you're the Shaman player.
Yeah. And that kind of frees up that Drake for him to play. Though Kibler does have a second Earthshock.
Now, Neirea does have a way to clear as well with Hellfire. And I think playing the Drake afterwards makes total sense. Dominate the board. And now finally Kibler can maybe draw something nice, whether it's like an Azure Drake, Earthshock, and then start piecing together the board.
Ooh, Pharaoh Spirit is nice, but it's kind of bad because it means that you cannot play all like your next turn.
Right, the Alakir Rockfighter combo. I mean, it's not like you would be setting up for lethal anyways. But at the same time, you're right. If you need to summon him and you need to answer a lot of the smaller minions, it's kind of problematic.
Yeah, I know I talk about this a lot, but the speed in which Neirea plays is very impressive too, because he just drew a card and immediately used his hero power. So he already knew, what kind of cards you would be able to cast or not be able to cast. You just have to look at your hand and decide very quickly if you want to use if you're going to have to spare mana or not, and you just had that decision made already. That's pretty cool.
The top play was just almost insta call, right? And that was a play that had a little bit of layer of decision making there. Meanwhile, Neirea, by the way, has kind of a clear way that maybe he can start taking the board apart. He has a giant. He's got Leroy Shadowflame if things ever get too dicey for him. Brian Kibler is going to try to push through this Sludge Belcher by using Lightning Storm.
Yeah, it's not pretty, but you do what you gotta do.
Okay. Soulfire. Well, he basically showed that he couldn't deal very efficiently with the first Sludge Belcher. In fact, Shaman's been dealing everything on a 2-for-1 basis, and that just led up to compound it with the Warlock hero power into an insane card advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And now he has, 9 cards against his opponent's 2.
Oh, Alex Straza.
Is it time for, a Leroy Shadowflame thing?
Well, Leroy actually, with the double Soulfires, is 14 damage. So, I mean, he's got some burst.
Yeah, but does he need it?
Well, I think need is a very conditional word in Hearthstone. You don't really need much, unless you're just trying to survive. It's more of a luxury, if anything.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, again, there's another spot where I don't think they're any wrong place.
Well, guess what? Now that he's faceless, he's got 20 damage.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
Ooh, Brian Kibler picks up his other way to use Rockbiter as burst, but it doesn't look like he'll be able to capitalize on it. And I believe he really needs a taunt giver of some kind, or it might not even matter because of how much damage the Soulfire can kind of get out of the way, and then you can just push in for the Leroy.
Yeah, this unfortunately I think is just over. Even if he goes Alakir, Rockbiter weapon and kills both those small guys. Or he could go Alakir, attack, and just hit a Town Totem, that would be the best. But he still has... Yeah, he might not die this exact turn, but... Not looking great for him.
No, it's going to be tricky.
I think
if you buy time...
Yeah, I think the play has got to be Alakir, Rockbiter, attack, kill the Sledge Boucher, and then hit him for 5. Trade the 2 and go in for the mini Belcher. But that's
so then you're pushing in for 5 extra damage, and then putting him at 9.
Yeah, but then hoping to either your Alakir survives or you draw another Rockbiter. But that's pretty bad against Siphon, so it basically means out at this point. Or it's 6 damage, not 5.
Alright, well. Naria, he has an easy way to just kill off his Alakir. Doesn't seem like he has an easy way to end this game at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he plays Giant, taunts it up, and plays Siphon, so I don't see how he can...
Alright. Now with 2-card combination and an Alakir out of the way, there's actually no way, I believe, for Kibler to pull himself out of this one.
He could flip a Spell Totem and double Lava Burst or something.
Right. Oh, I meant like in the deck that we know that he has. But you're absolutely correct. If his last cards were Leroy Faceless, then yes, he could end the two. But in our scenario where we know Kibler's deck and we're aware of what cards is in his range, it doesn't look like he can do this. And now Neirea has Leroy ready to carry it home. He doesn't even need Leroy. He can actually just go for, like a Soulfire, double Soulfire away. Okay. All right, so Neirea is going to open 2-0 against Kibler and going to put him on his Druid deck to kind of come back in this series. A little bit of a rough start here. Certainly that Neirea is so dominant with Handlock, despite Shaman being one of its worst matchups. And pretty impressive play. Very solid. And just like you mentioned, I don't really see any noticeable flaws whatsoever.
Yeah, and now with Shaman out of the way, like it's looking really bad for Kibler, because this Druid deck is not known for having a great Handlock matchup. That's why I think Handlock is such a strong deck to have in your lineup, because there's so few decks that actually have a good matchup against it, and it's so consistent. So generally, when you have a deck you beat, you just beat, because you draw so many cards, and a lot of your cards do the same things. It's, I can't imagine going to a tournament these days without having Handlock in my lineup.
Yeah, Handlock has shown its potency multiple times over, and Neirea has done pretty well with it so far. And I feel like Brian Kibler's last deck, the Shade of Naxxramas oriented around Token Druid and going for Burst, is going to run into a wall of problems that have 8 or 9 health at least, or more, depends on how this Twilight Drake pans out. Let's go into Game 3 and see if Kibler can pull himself out. And if so, maybe he can, but it's going to be tricky, that's for sure, as Neirea has been playing pretty well, and it seems like his Handlock has been getting decent draws, and he's following up with solid plays.
Yeah, at least, Kibler's last deck is not a deck that can just get countered. So if he wins this matchup, he still has a fighting chance against Neirea's next 2 decks. So it's not like he's going to have to, run Handlock into Hunter or something like that. So this is a good deck if you have the 3-0. This is a deck that can beat anything.
I agree there. Now, Kibler's opening hand, a little bit rocky. Other than his Echoing Ooze, it doesn't seem like turns 3 to 4 has anything going on. And this deck requires an explosive start. And that's one of your primary ways to get an advantage and utilize cards like Savage Roar in the beginning in order to potentially end the game.
Yeah, definitely. He would really like to draw Shade now, or even a Golem. There's just anything he can play. Because now he's looking at not having a play for the next 2 turns. That's really devastating.
Yikes. Oh man. Now, meanwhile, his opponent, the Handlock player, has 2 4-drops of his choice. Mountain Giant and Twilight Drake are 2 big threats. And he's even got ways to kind of piece together some of the smaller minions in tandem. He's got Ancient Watcher and ways to activate it. He's got, Farseer to challenge on the board and heal up. Things are looking very good for Neirea.
Yep, choosing not to play the Drake here, probably because he doesn't want to run it into Keeper, which would just silence it and trade it for News. Now he can guarantee that he can play the Mountain Giant next turn. He couldn't do that, obviously, because of the coin, but yeah, now he can just play that, and a 3/3 actually puts a big strain on this board of 1/2s. I guess what's Kibler going to do is probably just going to attack face and play a Golem, and then the 3/3 is going to eat some of his guys.
That feels pretty bad. The card that he put out is not even that strong to fend off against the Farseer. So good read once again from Neirea to kind of just recognize the best plays every single time. Very strong overall. Now Kibler, the quality of minions that he has are also some of the heaviest cards in his deck. Other than these cards, he has Druid of the Claws and he has Ancient of Lores. And then those are the heaviest 8 cards in the deck. So I have to kind of feel bad for this guy that he's gotten such the bad end of the drawing stick that he's in a really tough spot now.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the same hand with like an Innervate. It would have been so much better. Instead, he has all the 5s and 6 drops. Which is a problem with Hunter. Granted, this will happen a lot with Druid. Sorry, this will happen a lot with Druid because your cards have such different power levels and do such different things at different stages of the game. Drawing Innervate early is awesome, and drawing it, on turn 10 is very bad. Whereas with Handlock, I feel like you're more consistent. Your cards do the same thing regardless of when you cast it, and that's a big part of why the deck is strong. Yeah, here Kibler, just gonna throw a low tab into the giant, I guess. Just hoping to trade the whole board for a giant, not knowing that there are like 3 more to come. And as Ledge Belcher, that's gonna stop.
Oh gosh, yeah. Now you pointed out there's 2 Sludge Belchers. There's a second Mountain Giant, and there's another Twilight Drake. So it's pretty much a full loaded weapon here inside the hand of Neirea. And at this point, it's Kibler is gonna have to really shove hard in order to kind of get through. But now he's got to go through a wall of taunts. That's gonna be kind of tricky.
Ooh, attack to the face. That I did not expect. I thought he was going to kill. Yeah, I mean, I guess that works. Killer can still kill the Mountain Giant. With swipe hero power, right? He attacks, then swipes the giant, hero powers the 1/2. Oh no, he can't. That's 1 damage short. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't see a way for Kibler to kind of pull himself out here without committing like everything, and then it's going to be really difficult once you give up the board as the Druid player. He already doesn't run tech cards, like you said, be a game Hunter or the Black Knight, because you've been dedicating your entire deck building to making this deck extremely lean and efficient with a lot of the minions.
Yeah, so I don't think there's actually any way to deal with that. Even if he plays Savage Roar here, that still won't be enough.
I guess you just play your best minion then. Put your best foot forward. Cairn is it.
Yeah, the saving grace for him is that Naria doesn't actually have any parts of his combo. So at this precise moment, staying at 4 life or at 20 life is basically the same. But he's going to draw it eventually. If that Mountain Giant keeps attacking face. I don't know if he's going to attack face now.
No. Well, depends on kind of how he chooses to go about this turn. He's got flexibility to kind of add a lot of power onto the field. Putting out Giants. Putting out Twilight Drakes. Coining out Sludge Belcher. Anything is pretty much possible here. You want to kind of also see if you can get mileage out of something like Hellfire and make things softened up a little bit.
Okay, now he's going to taunt 2 big giants. Which makes going for the face really easy here.
Yeah, definitely. Druid has to push through this. Alright, looks like he's going to have to play some cleanup crew here. Swipe and Savage Roar.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine it's gonna have to be that. How does he do it? Yeah, I mean that, if he uses those 2 cards, he clears the board. He could even attack one of the giants and take 8, but keep one of his minions.
Ugh.
It's better to just attack the 2/3 if you had.
Yeah, it feels better to do that because you're at 7 health if you attack into a giant, and then Leroy plus anything kills you.
Yeah. Even Hellfire Soulfire.
Yeah. Alright, a tough situation for Kibler, but he's got to pull himself out here. At least can take comfort knowing that there's no more Mountain Giants, but there's still a couple more threats remaining in his opponent's hand.
Yeah, so here you basically...
Yep.
Yeah. Question is, do you want to trade your ooze for the 2/2, or do you want to just send yourself at it? Kibler chooses to send himself, putting himself at 13, which is also reasonable.
Okay. Well,
But it worked out better than expected for Kibler, I think. I think Neirea didn't think that was going to happen. Now he's actually behind.
Yeah, on the board, he has to kind of be careful that his opponent doesn't have a way to kill him. And he is coming up on the turns where he's going to have to fear the combo in case his opponent has a second edition of it. Not over yet.
Oh, no, for sure not. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, maybe if Neirea hadn't gone so much for the face. No,
A little bit
that's
more
probably
for board control.
Yeah, killing those minions before the Savage Roar could pump them, but then he wouldn't force Kibler's hand. The way he played, Kibler had to have that.
Alright, Kibler going to fill out his curve a little bit better. And then he has Ancient of Lore to kind of pick up a couple more cards. Not to mention that if he has some of the most resilient cards in all of Hearthstone at the moment.
Yeah. What does Neirea do? Just play 2 minions here? Like Sledge Belcher and Ring Parseer? Not great.
Yeah, as much as Twilight Drake sits there and is going to be high health, you still want to get up the Taunters. You still want to get up minions to disrupt your opponent so that way they can't burst you out of the game. And so as soon as you pick up another Taunter, you have that plus an Ancient Watcher to set up a big wall. So just kind of keep that in your back pocket. An Innervate draw for Kibler opens up more possibilities too. It depends on what he can get something off of Ancient of Lore. But he also has to kind of calculate the possibility of him dying from the opposite end because there is Leroy in the hand, and then Kibler kind of weighs out his options here.
Yeah, and if anything, the Leroy Shadow Flame combo is guessed to clear his whole board, even if he plays a second Spectral Knight here.
Oh man, in fact, the Ancient of Lore has to pick up Defender of Argus.
Yeah, that would be good.
But like you said, it would go for a clear instead of a kill.
Yeah. Not sure. He could heal the Spectral Knight, but I think that's actually what he's going to do.
Alright.
Nope, heals himself.
Heal himself. Okay, heads up play. Realizing that he feels like he might be dead, and the Ancient of Lore is his best bet.
He would be dead, right? Leroy.
Right, he would have been.
Attack. Yeah.
Now, Naria has a Taunt Giver now, so the Twilight Drake all of a sudden becomes relevant.
Yeah, but now he can just Hellfire the board away.
That's right. Forgot about that. And he's out of range within the Savage Roar combo.
Yeah.
Oh, this is looking very tricky indeed.
Killer's not dead now, though.
Ooh, the card combinations.
Yeah.
The fact that he's a take 4 here, but at least now you have some semblance of a board. And who knows?
True, yeah. Playing this way, if you draw, I guess you can't draw the combo.
Yeah.
So max you can do is 13 here.
Oh, wait. Leroy and the
Soulfire
is 10 damage. And that allows Naria to end this series right here, 3-0. And you know what? It was just kind of on the back of pretty decent play. Going for a little bit of the extended BM too. I like it. He's not over the top by any means. Not quite the Forsen level, but he's got a little bit of flair. I like it. And he comes out of his first series, 3-0 dominant showing with Handlock, and just great play overall. And this is awfully reminiscent of how we saw Colento start off the series, where it just made it look very easy.
Yeah, maybe it's just a Ukraine thing. Maybe they're just genetically good at Hearthstone.
Yeah, and not even showing much emotion, despite the fact that they were so one-sided in their favor. Well played overall.
Yeah, it really does look like a picture.
It's the poker face. The guy's definitely prepared for these high-level tournaments and making sure to keep his nerves calm. So Naria is up 1-0 overall in the group, and it comes to about the point where we have to kind of decide whether or not we can go into the next series or risk overlapping the BlizzCon America Qualifiers Day 3 stream. So I believe we're going to actually stop here for today and pick up the rest tomorrow. We've had a lot of fun here on Group A and B. Tomorrow we'll be starting at, I believe, 5 p.m. Pacific, also known as 8 p.m. Eastern for the United States. So make sure that you guys can follow the channel and make sure we get the notifications to go live. And it should be up after Lord of the Arena is done for the day. So keep in mind all the tournaments that are going up and making sure that you guys catch all the action, because tomorrow we'll finish up Hype, Savit's, and Brian Kibler's games along with Neirea and see who advances to the top 4. Also, check out the chance to win the Zeus Mini Cyber Power PC with the link that you see. Type in giveaway in the chat and get more information, or go to the bottom of the Twitch channel and find out more about VGVN and all about their efforts to promote video games in a healthy way to the media, so that way it's not unfairly portrayed, and that way it can be represented accurately in things like the Supreme Court, so that way it's not unpegged. It's not pegged for things that it's not responsible for, like violent video games, etc. We're also going to be hosting Hyped after the stream. The player that you see from Group B, he's going to be playing some games on ladder, so you can join with him. PV, thanks for joining me today. Do you have any last words for the stream before we go?
Yes, thanks for having me. It was a great opportunity, and I know my microphone has not been the best. I couldn't have fixed it now, but I'll try to get a new one for tomorrow. So hopefully this time will be better. And thanks for watching, everyone. It was very nice doing this.
It was a great time. So remember, guys, we'll be back at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. That's 2 a.m. for Europeans, unfortunately. And it's going to be 5 p.m. Pacific for those in California and also in Western Canada. Thank you so much for watching, guys, from the One Nation of Gamers production crew and Liquid Heart and VGVN. Thank you so much for watching. This has been day 1 of the 3rd edition of the Next Flamers Release Tournament. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.